Welcome to the Real Estate Secrets Podcast for healthcare professionals, hosted by Austin Hare and Nathan Palmer, who together have over 2 decades of real estate knowledge and investing.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show, Commercial Real Estate Secrets. Today, we are with Ray Caruso. Now, he started as a dental assistant in the Army, and then he went to Heartland Dental Care, where he started as the front desk, and he ended as the regional director of operations. After that, he was the COO of DecisionOne Dental, and he currently holds the position of CEO at Lone Peak Dental. So quite the extensive history in the dental industry. Ray, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Austin. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, like we were talking about earlier, I think you got a great story. I love getting people's stories on here. I love finding out, what is it? Because you don't just wake up as CEO of a massive DSO like Lone Peak Dental, right? There's a lot of history along the way, a lot of stuff that goes into it that people may not realize. And so what was life like for you as a kid? What was your first entrepreneurial experience, when you realized, hey, I need to make money or I need to hustle?
Yeah, I love the word hustle. When I was a kiddo, I really wanted a pair of Nike tennis shoes. I was like 4th grade. I started recognizing that the JCPenney Winter 2s weren't the coolest thing out there. And so my brother had a paper route. He was a couple years older than I was. So I'd just shadow him as much as I could so I could pick up his days when he was doing Boy Scouts or if he needed a day off or whatever it was. And so I was able to afford that $19, which, equated to today's money. I don't know what that is, but 1981, I would guess.
Probably like triple, right?
Right. That was a lot of money for a kid, but I loved it. It got me doing other things. I continued to have paper routes until I was probably 15 or 16. And then, running around the neighborhood with a rake or a lawnmower, trying to make as much money as I possibly could. So just anything I could do to make some money.
Nice. So you had a desire for something. You realized your parents weren't going to get you there. So you had to step in and fill the void, right?
Yeah.
So what was that like then? I guess you got a taste for like, hey, if I put some effort into this, I could make a little bit of money. What was that like for high school for you? Was that kind of like what you did until you graduated from high school?
Yeah, the same thing. I would do anything I could, but mostly it turned into a regular job. Burger King, Hardee's, whatever the fast food restaurant was that would pay you the most. I think I was making $3.30 at Burger King, and I found out that they were paying $5 at Hardee's. I'm like, it's the same amount of time. Can't be that much more difficult. And I loved Hardee's. I worked the drive-through. And we were open all night Friday night, all night Saturday night, and I would work the whole shifts. And it brings work ethic to you, man.
Man, that's crazy. So that's funny. I have a similar story. I worked at McDonald's when I was 14 because they were the only ones that would hire. The only ones that would hire at 14. But my biggest takeaway was like, holy crap, this sucks. I like have to stand the whole time. I smell like grease every single day. And I never want to eat McDonald's again, yet alone work here. Like I'm going to do everything I can to be as successful. I'm going to study. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to train. I'm going to this is my motivating factor to make sure that I don't end up back here. So did it have any effects like that on you?
Funny thing, I guess I wasn't that forthright or that forward thinking. I was always thinking about what was going on at the moment. I remember the manager had a Mustang convertible, whatever the brand new Mustang was at that time. And it was the 5.0 GT. And I'm like, it's that old, I started out on fries and now I'm chopping lettuce. And then the assistant manager when the big bucks start rolling in. I knew that wasn't going to be my career path, but I do remember going, wow, you could make a lot of money in fast food. But I didn't also see the 80 or 90 hours a week that guy worked.
Yeah, that's a lot of time to put in to drive a Mustang.
Yeah, you're not driving it anywhere except to work.
Yeah, seriously. Okay, so that was did that take up all your free time in high school? That's how you pretty much made money working at the fast food joints?
Yeah, I mean, I played the drums in a band, but we didn't go anywhere, obviously. But it was a lot of fun, and I really, studied as much as a normal high school kid would. Went to movies, but no, I worked more than I did anything else.
Wow.
Also, if I was in trouble at home, because I did have younger siblings, a lot of younger siblings, so I could make a lot of mistakes with the kiddos and get in trouble with my mom. And if I was at work, I wasn't getting in trouble.
You can't ground you from work, right?
Oh, can't ground me from work.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. And I think that's important too, because a lot of times, like, you think of college kids or high school kids, or maybe you're in college or high school, and you think to yourself, well, like, hey, I can't, like, I can't do anything right now. Like, I'm in school, I'm studying, but like, that's not really the case. I think you can tell early on, how the drive somebody has, regardless of what stage of their education they're in, because you've got, like, you're only in school for a certain amount of time. What do you do with your extra time? What do you do with your free time? And too many times people use it as an excuse that be in school to not be productive, to not move themselves forward on their journey or throughout their career, but just goes to show, like, if you choose to take that route, like that's more of an excuse than a reason to not hit your goals, not be on track. Right.
That's true. Now, I would say if you're in professional schools like dental school, med school, yeah, you probably aren't working at the restaurant at night.
Yeah.
But no, when I was in college, I was working at TGI Fridays, as much as many shifts as they would give me. And I had the goal of making $100 every single night or every single afternoon or whatever times that I would work, because I had rent to pay. I had things to do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good distinction. You're right. Like, in medical school, you don't have time to be having a side hustle, but generally up until there. So, well, cool. Right. And then, so you graduated high school, moved on to college. And then what was that like?
Actually, I went straight into the military after high school. Well, I did take 1 year off, nice. Where I thought the band was going to take off, because everybody's looking in Springfield, Illinois for the next Nirvana.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So we
had some fun.
Oh, I had a ton of fun. But just like in Wayne's World, I had the Joe Jobs, the hairnets and the name tags. Nice. And so I did a year of that and determined one summer that it just wasn't going anywhere and this couldn't be my life. And so my brother had joined the military right out of high school. And so I thought, I'll go do that, see what that's like for a few years. And he called me the night before I signed up and he said, hey, it might sound cool to drive a tank around, but you're going to want to pick something that you're going to get a good job with afterwards and go medical. That was great advice. He was a lab tech or something in the Army, and now he's a computer engineer. Those two things don't necessarily go together. But I picked dental assistant, and of all things, like when I was a kid, I never went to the dentist. I never had a cavity. I never had pain. I didn't have braces. I didn't know anything about dental, except I figured they probably worked in air conditioning. And that sounded more fun than a field medic, which sounds like you'd be out in the field getting shot at. So that's where I picked dental.
Oh, that's great. Well, obviously in hindsight, I'm sure you're happy with that choice. What was that like, working dental in the military?
Yeah. My first place was the NATO headquarters in Belgium, which I found out was a country when I got there. So good public school system that we have there. And it was because it was NATO headquarters, we did not wear uniforms. And I went into work in scrubs every day. And while I was at work, I took x-rays, I assisted dentists, learned procedures and things like that. And I enjoyed it. I really did. I thought it was, I thought it might be an interesting career path.
And how long were you there for?
I stayed at that first duty station for 4 years because I just loved living in Europe. It was a great experience. And then I had 2 more years left. So they sent me to hygiene school, got that taken care of. So I got paid to go to school. So that was fantastic. Then I did my last year as a hygienist in North Carolina. Great experience again. And it made me decide that I wanted to go to dental school. If I'm going to spend the time seeing patients throughout the day and I can get paid 5 times as much, it seemed to make more sense to be a dentist instead of a hygienist. So I got out of the Army, went back to school, got my degree in biology, And then I made a different decision right at graduation where I was like, I've done a lot of school. I'm 28 years old or 27 or however old I was at that time. And I thought, let me just, have a job, and then maybe I'll go to dental school afterwards. Let me get a regular life instead of going to college all day, working at TGI Fridays at night, and partying, if you will. So I moved back to my hometown, Springfield, Illinois, and I just put it. There was an ad for a front desk person, I couldn't tell if it was an office manager. I couldn't tell what it was, but it sounded fun. In fact, the ad, it said zookeeper needed, and it started talking about being in a dental office. And I was like, that is the coolest ad. This is probably a good company or a good office to work at. And so I applied and got the job and started working there, pretty quick. And I really enjoyed it.
Okay. And yeah, that's cool. So it's interesting because like nowadays, you have, I think Netflix really made it popular to have their core values in their application process. And so it's like, this was at a time before maybe this information was so public, but it sounds like they were kind of using this ad to show their core values, right? Like to their potential employees by making it fun, relating it to zookeepers, being a little bit abstract. Was the culture true to that once you got in?
It couldn't have been closer. It could not have been closer to the truth. It was absolutely nuts. We had an oral surgeon, an orthodontist, and 2 general dentists. And the 2 general dentists were the furthest opposite personalities you could possibly imagine. One guy was the happiest guy in the world, singing down the hallways, no joke, all the time singing. All of his patients loved him. And then the other guy was like the crustiest guy you could possibly imagine. And he always wanted to be busy. He didn't want to have small talk, and he just wanted to get in and get out, get his work done. And so he relied on people like me and the other team to soften him, to sell the treatment, if you will. And I was really good at it. And I loved it. I loved both doctors. They were both, kooky as you could possibly imagine, but it was fun. And then the orthodontist, because we had ortho, you've just got tons of kids coming in and out. You got lots of assistants. And because we had oral surgery, you had lots of phone calls of emergencies coming in. And so it was nuts. It was nuts.
What do you think your biggest takeaways were? What do you think your biggest takeaways were from working at this place?
Oh, well, the fact that you have to deal with so many different personalities and keep a lot of people happy. An orthodontist wants to make sure that they've got their cases starting, and you've got this one guy who doesn't want to be super busy but wants to be happy and still be productive. You got another guy that just wants to extract teeth all day. It just keeping all of that together is a lot of work. And for my first front desk job, to try to figure all that stuff out, it was quite comical.
And so, but you moved your way up, right? Up the ranks. You went from front desk to operations manager, right?
Yeah. So I started the front desk. This was a growing company. When I first applied, I thought it was a single dental office. I didn't even know companies existed because I came from the Army. And like I said, I'd never really gone to a dental office. And it was in the early stages of consolidation. So they had 30 practices. And while they were growing, they were needing to poach talent from their dental offices of people that knew what they were doing. So if they bought a new practice, they could integrate it into the rest of the company. Or if they needed somebody to manage 5 or 6 offices, they had somebody that knew how to post payments and how to, just do the regular processes and systems, and then influence others. So yeah, I was working my one office, and then I started working with 2, and then 4, and then 7, and then it just continued to grow. And by the time I left, I'd been there for almost 11 years, and I was responsible for 70 practices through 8 or 9 states. And it just, obviously I had a team under me. It wasn't just, every doctor for 70 practices would call me individually, but yeah, so I just moved up the ranks, if you will.
Wow. So 70 practices. So, I mean, at that stage, you can't be communicating with every single office. I'm guessing you reach out to the regional manager, maybe of multiple different regions that are reporting to you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's exactly how we did it. I had two regional managers, and then they had regional, I can't remember what they were called, but different layers, which, you have to do something like that in an organization. You wish that you could be flat, to where you wouldn't have to have so many layers. Because if you're a doctor in any practice and you look and you go, okay, for me to speak to somebody who can get something done, how many people do I have to go through? And, when you only have 20 or 30 practices, you might speak to two people, you might speak to one. But when you're part of an organization that has 400 practices, or now it has over 1,000, you're not necessarily communicating to the people that you want to.
Mm. Right. Yeah. Because I remember, have you ever read the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink?
I have not.
Okay. It talks about kind of a similar thing. It's like, it's just very hard to manage like 20 people at a time, right? I mean, really, to be really, really effective, like it's groups of 6 or 7 or maybe a little bit more, but any more than that. And it's just hard to give equal treatment or equal attention to, because there's just going to be people that take up more of your attention.
Ineffective.
Yeah.
So after I've heard, or in my experience, 6 to 8 is optimal.
Yeah.
After that, it starts to become just, like you said, you're now dealing with the squeaky wheel, or you're dealing with problems as they occur, and you just can't be as proactive as you want to be.
So what was next then? You said you're there for 11 years. What was after that?
Yeah, well, so I left there to open up a bike shop, I purchased a bike shop, and I thought I'd run that and simplify my life. I really thought that I would get up in the morning, I would ride my bicycle to work, I would enjoy my time at the new office, and then I would ride home, and I would just have this, relaxing lifestyle. I love bikes. I love racing. I love the whole culture around it. And I also thought that there could be a future of combining and consolidating bicycle shops to the tune of what I was doing in dentistry. And I just didn't know enough about what I didn't know. And so I enjoyed that period of time. I didn't do it for as long as I thought I would. I recognize that the money to be made in that industry is not nearly as much as I wanted to make. And it was just getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed more because of the internet and selling online. And in fact, now, bicycles still will always do well. They have to, because somebody's got to build it. Somebody's got to fix them. And the technology continues to improve every single year. So people that really care about that stuff are going to go spend money. But for me, my passion of cycling and my passion for retail were completely separate. I had no passion for retail, lots of passion for cycling, and it wasn't a match.
Yeah, it's like it's two things, right? One is like the case of the baker opening up a bakery, and then the other one is how the grass is always greener on either side, right? Like you just thought, hey, once I get done with this, my life will be perfect.
Yep. Yeah. And since I didn't have that business acumen, I didn't go out and consolidate bicycle shops. I just kept going to the same place, and that same place became less and less desirable, and all the cool gear and everything became more of a headache than fun. And what I used to get excited about, like, new carbon wheels, now it's like, who cares?
Yeah, because it became a job, right? I mean,
yeah.
When I opened the fitness centers, I always loved working out, and I had some kickboxing gyms, and it was like very similar. It's like, oh, this will be so cool. Like I'll just have a job where I can like go work out all day. And then same thing, I wanted to open up tons of locations. Like I wanted to have multiple stores, and I had 3, and then I just was like, man, like this is just, it's not fun anymore. It was fun for a certain time, and then kind of all of a sudden it became not fun. And I remember one of my friends, she was younger, and she was just like, oh, you have your own gym? That's so cool. You get a free membership. And I just remember thinking like, man, this is like, that was kind of my motivation when I started it. And like, it is just so not worth it. Like now I'm so happy because I used to think gym memberships were really expensive. I never wanted to pay $100, $150 a month or whatever. And now it's like, I'm just so happy to go pay whatever, just so I don't have to be in that day-to-day hustle and that day-to-day grind, because it took all the fun out of it.
Yep. Yeah. Gosh, I couldn't agree more. I
Yeah.
couldn't agree more. So I'm not telling kids to not go after their dream or follow their passion. But it was retail. It wasn't the passion of cycling. Like I would have loved to have been a professional cyclist, but that wasn't in my cards. I started too late, or I just wasn't as strong, or I didn't take enough drugs. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Because, yeah, I think, I still think it's a good idea to chase your dream, but just know, like, it's not going to be perfect. I think the misconception is, oh, like, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. No way. Even if you love what you do, you're still working. There's no way you can find anything where you just like everything about the job. It just doesn't exist.
Right.
Everything
Right.
you do is going to come with things that you don't like, period.
Oh, people think being the CEO is so great. I'm sure that some of my fellow colleagues are going to be listening to this at some point. It's great. I mean, there's all kinds of cool stuff, but I used to have one boss when I was the chief operations officer or the regional director of operations. Now I have 7. I've got board members and they all have their, opinions and, hey, do this and do that. And, you can't ever make everybody happy. It's, and then really, if you look at, even take away the board, I've got 127 doctors that if they're not happy, things don't necessarily go as well as we want them to go. And so, I've always got to be on when the doctor calls, no matter who it is, and or sends an email or a text or whatever. So it's fun. It's a great gig. It's cool that you can sit back and think of things to implement and influence others, and heck, even do things like this. But yeah, it's not the easiest job in the world.
So what was after the cycle shop? So I guess you sold it, decided it wasn't for you.
Yeah. So a buddy of mine from Heartland, he and I connected really well. He was a doc. He was up in like mid-state Illinois. And when I would go up to visit, he, I liked working with him. He was just he was always thinking about the business as well as what he can do and contribute, instead of just, hey, leave me alone. I'm just doing my job, whatever. He wasn't your normal associate doctor, if you will. Not to say that all doctors are that way. I'm just letting you know this guy was different. He was very eager. He was just a cool dude. He left Heartland, and I can't remember, 07, 08, and he went up to Chicago. His brother was also a dentist, and so they started a company together. And when I was working at the bike shop, he'd call me and he'd ask me like, hey, how do you do this? And hey, what do you do here? And so we would, shoot the stuff every now and then. Anyway, he called me. It had been about 2 years, maybe 3. And he said, look, I'm going to let my chief operations officer go. He was pushed on me by private equity. And he doesn't know what he doesn't know. And I'd really like you to come up and run my company. What would it take to bring you up here? And I was so fed up with the retail action. And I talked to my wife, and we moved up to Chicago, and it was the best thing. It wasn't just because of, money or the job or whatever. It was him as a mentor. His brother was awesome. He had a very small group of, it's like, here's an assistant who really likes marketing. And so she's our marketing person now. And here's my cousin who's now an HR manager, and she doesn't know anything about HR, and so I came up there, and all those people are still there. They're all fantastic people, but we just put more sophistication to it. We changed some processes and procedures of the dental office day to day. We worked on recruiting, we worked on marketing, we got digital, we got a whole bunch of different things. And we went from, I think he had 5 or 6 offices when I started with him, and he ended up when I left, he had 20, and then he ended up with 30, and then just recently partnered with another major DSO group. And now he's running and managing 250 offices. I mean, the guy, like I said, he's just a machine. He's awesome. But what he taught me was, I come up there and I'm gung ho, and I know what I know, and I have 11 years of corporate experience, and I've got 5 or 6 years of clinical experience. And so, coming in and getting out of the retail world was just like, yay, and just absolutely loved it. But what he taught me was something different than anybody else had taught me. It was about, you need them more than they need you. And that's a really odd thing for somebody to just say right out loud. It's like, you may have your opinions about whoever this person is, and you may think that they're not doing a great job, or that they could do better, or whatever your opinions are. But he kept like instilling that into me. It's like, yeah, I understand that our marketing could be better, but you still need them more than they need you. And that's always stuck with me. And I keep thinking, like, I always think that when I'm talking to one of my doctors, it's like, they don't need me. I don't actually do anything. I can think up all kinds of ideas, and I can influence people to make them think that that's a great idea. And hey, let's implement that. But I literally do nothing. I don't generate any money. I just come up with ways to help motivate and move things through. So it was a powerful thing that he taught me.
It's a very humble way of looking at it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Hopefully nobody hears that and starts, changing my options and salary, but whatever.
I'll keep it a secret.
Yeah.
Your real estate secrets.
Yeah. There you go. So when I was there, I worked with him for almost 5 years, really learned a ton from him, which gave me the ability when this opportunity came up, that I felt confident enough that I could take on this opportunity. Not just because of that one thing, but because we did a ton of transactions. When I was with Heartland, every one of their transactions was done before I ever walked through the door. Every negotiation was done. All the integration pieces were set in place. If we lost a doctor, recruiting had 7 more ready to go. If we hired a new team member, they had a full-on training program before they ever set foot in and beyond. Those things didn't exist at this company. We had to create it. We had to make it, and we had to live it and learn it. And whether it's negotiating a lease or getting out of a lease, tons and tons of stuff that I didn't even know. I didn't know. So when this company came knocking back in 2017, I felt a lot more ready that if somebody really is going to pass the torch from the founders to me, am I going to do it justice? Not just for the title. Is this something that I can actually do and make a difference? And 2 years before that, I probably would have said no. I might have taken the job anyway, but then those learning experiences wouldn't have been great for the company. And heck, I probably would have failed and been crawling back to my former boss.
Well, that's great, man. So 2017, you started here, Lone Peak, and then what's that been like? It's probably a lot more fun being on the side of. Are you helping negotiate these deals, I'm guessing, with the new acquisitions?
Mm-hmm.
And are you doing the site selection for the new locations and involved in a lot of the strategic points?
Yeah. So that is fun. We do a lot of, for our acquisitions, we do a lot of due diligence, and I get to be a part of all that. Thank God I have team members that are way smarter than I am on developing pro formas and really, getting the data correct. And then we've got plenty of sets of eyeballs that look at it, sometimes well in advance of me. That's fun. Site selection, we do have a group that we use, a brokerage firm that helps us with site selection when we're looking at at anything that we're going to acquire, or if we're looking at building out a new practice, we got to go through all of our demographic studies and what's our competition around there, and all those things. And then, looking for different locations and what's going to have the most car traffic, what's going to have the most visibility, how many rooftops are we around, does it fit our clientele? We are a pediatric group, and a pediatric group needs lots of kids. So, being in an older being around homes that were built in the 90s where all the kids have already grown up and moved out and are in college, and you got your, we need to be around families, younger homes, younger demographics. So even apartment complexes, look for big soccer fields and high schools and middle, not high schools, middle schools and elementary schools, smack dab in there. Those people have already done the site selection for you.
Hey, right. Right. Yeah, that's true. And so how often do you guys look at buying versus renting your locations? Because I'm guessing if you're doing acquisitions, a lot of times the doctors own the real estate. But about even in terms of like existing locations that are not occupied by dentists that you're going to do a de novo, do you have a preference for buying versus renting? And like what kind of, questions do you ask yourself ahead of time?
Yeah. Ooh, well, first of all, the big question is if we're going to do a de novo, do we have a doctor that we know, love, and trust? Because I don't want to build out this beautiful place and then go out and look for doctors. So anytime we are doing a brand new build, it's with a doctor that we know. And it's a doctor who's going to have an equity piece in that practice. So they have a reason for it to be successful. It's really hard to start a brand new practice, extremely hard. You don't have any patients, you don't have any flow. You got to do all that stuff. And you need a partner that's actually going to do it. And most doctors that are coming right out of school or have a few years experience, they don't know, again, what they don't know. And so if you're going to have to pay them something. And if there's no revenue coming through, what's the incentive for them to do well? And we need to grow it fast. So we give a large portion of equity to the doctor who's going to be physically working in that practice. So not only do they want to make money on the revenue, but they want it to be profitable quickly.
Yeah, that's true. So it sounds like majority are done through the acquisition, hands down majority over the de novos. Do you ever come into situations though where the doctor owns the real estate and he's trying to sell the real estate with the business? And then what do you guys do in those situations?
Yeah, so we've done it two different ways. One time we've done it to where we buy the real estate and then we turn around and sell it, because we're not in the business for.
Buy it, you might sign a new lease, increase the value of that building, sell it, take the capital, use it for expansion, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. We typically don't want to get into a 10-year lease with somebody that is an increased lease expense, because we want our occupancy costs all in to be less than 9%. And so if we just jack up the lease so that we could sell it at a profit, not a good thing. But the reason why we buy it is because sometimes we have to get the deal done. And if we don't buy it, somebody else will, and then we lose out on the dental practice, which is really where we want to be. So we look for companies that will purchase that at a reasonable price or whatever. We obviously don't want to lose money, but we want to keep our lease in line with what's normal. And then the other is that we just let them hold on to the real estate as part of their retirement package, or whatever it is that they want. And we just, we use a brokerage firm to negotiate our leases so that we're not on the wrong side of the table with a doctor. I don't want to, get into a pissing match with a doctor about a lease because they think it's worth $7,000 a month and it's really only worth $4,500 a month. And I don't want to have that conversation with them. I'd rather let somebody else be that guy or person so that I get to have conversations about the go forward on the practice.
That's good, man. I feel like we could talk all day, but unfortunately it looks like we just came to our stop sign or our stop time. And I feel like we're just getting into the fun stuff, but it's cool, man. It's been great chatting with you. What would be a good way if somebody, they want to get in touch, they want to get involved with Lone Peak, what would be a good way for them to do that or reach out?
Yeah, so we're always looking for great doctors. We are geographically diverse, so we're in 15, 16 states, and we're
Nice.
continuing to expand. We're looking for good doctors who are looking for a path to partnership and want to own a significant portion of the practice in which they work without necessarily having to take on all the risk. So we're always looking for great doctors, and we're always looking for great partners that are looking to sell their practices to us as well. And then, as we continue to grow, anybody who wants to be in the operation space, we're always looking for great talent. So my email is super easy. It's ray@lonepeakdentalgroup.com.
Nice.
And then we're working on our site. Our site is down right now, but we're lonepeakdentalgroup.com. And that site will be back up next week. We're just redoing the whole thing, and so that it's really selected towards new hiring new doctors and associate partners, and then acquiring new practices. So it's being completely revamped.
Okay. Yeah. And I will put those in the show notes for everybody listening, so that way they can click on those and get in touch if they want more info. So yeah, that's great. Super exciting. Great stories. And it's always interesting hearing the path about how people such as yourself, who have the coveted title of CEO, get there, because it doesn't happen overnight. It's a history. It's a lifetime of hard work, really, that you put in.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Austin. I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And then, hey, maybe in the future, maybe next year, we'll circle back around, try and get another one.
Yeah, I would love that. Thanks. It was totally my pleasure.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you.